Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for the week of August 4th through 10th. I am back. I, I couldn't make it last week because Sagittarius life, I was on the road, literally driving from the northern part of California to San Francisco. And so I couldn't make the astrology forecast happen. I've also been working really hard to get out the August horoscopes for each sign for my Patreon community and also editing episodes for Cha and Awaken and Align. And there's just a lot going on. I couldn't get my ish together. But I just wanted to say how grateful I am to the Patreon members who have signed up so far. I feel like, wow, like so honored that you trust me in this work and that I get to do this for a living and really being in alignment with my purpose. And it's because of you. I didn't get a chance to write down the names of the Patreon community. Also, like, I don't want to give their identity away in case they want to be more private, but you all know who you are. Thank you so much. Your August horoscopes are coming. I have 4 signs to go that I'm going to complete today. And so hopefully they'll be up by tomorrow. So if any of you want to go deeper with me and you want to get a monthly horoscope for your rising sign, then you can sign up to the Patreon community. If you want to support this weekly forecast, that's also another tier. If you want to go even deeper with me and learn astrology, I'm planning to teach it. September 1st was like the possible date, but if we need more time, I was also thinking about the equinox, which is September 22nd. But there is an interest form in the description box of, I just want to know where everyone's at, what you want to learn, and also your capacity to invest, because I want to make this as accessible as possible. I think that one of the reasons why astrology has become this tool that only certain people get to learn is because it's behind this gigantic paywall. And I know myself, all I want to do is learn astrology, but some of these astrology courses are just so expensive. And I'm still paying off my master's degree. So when people say to me, I want to take your class, but I can't afford it, I totally get that. And I've been there before. So I want to make this as accessible as possible because I do believe collective liberation is when we can all help each other out. And if people are able to pay more because they have a full-time job and subsidize somebody who can't, I feel like that's what I'm intending for this. I do believe astrology is a tool that a lot of our ancestors used. And I believe reclaiming that is also part of our revolution, and knowing thyself and knowing your role and knowing your gifts and talents is part of the resistance movement and collective liberation. So this is why during this Mercury retrograde, I was contemplating it. I was going back and forth. And now that the Kazemi happened on July 31st, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And the Kazemi happened in my 9th house of astrology and teaching. And it was opposing my natal moon and Venus and Aquarius in the 3rd house. So I'm hopefully like in astrology 201, the one after 101, I'm going to teach you how to use transits to time your best life and also use astrology in this way. So anyway, if you want to join that, make sure to fill out the interest form. And yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into the recap, because obviously I didn't get to share the weekly forecast from last week, which I was really excited to, because I was really looking forward to this Mercury Kazemi moment. But on July 30th, there was a Chiron retrograde. Well, Chiron stationed to go retrograde, and Venus ingressed into the sign of Cancer. So there's a lot of cardinal energy in the sky. There's a lot of fire and air. This is a lot of, taking action, speaking your truth, putting things into form. Even though things are going retrograde, I personally have a lot of retrograde planets. This could bring just an air of doubt, like, is this the right move? Is this worth my energy? And it's just a point of reflection before you actually make your moves. I just wanted to check what degree Chiron was retrograde. Okay, so 27 degrees of Aries. So if you have any cardinal placements, the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn in and around, let's say, 20 to 29 degrees. Then Chiron is going to, yeah, you're going to feel it. But you also want to look at your Aries house. There's a wounding there. There's a wounding around your own inner authority, your agency, your ability to make shit happen for yourself. Aries is the sign of the risk taker. It's the fuck around and find out energy. So Chiron, I think, collectively is asking us to reflect in the ways where we hold our own personal power, or when we allow others to impose their power over us. And that's just so applicable, right, in the individual and collective level of what's going on right now. And I think a lot of people are still in this moment of putting all of their hopes and dreams on a celebrity, on an influencer, on a politician, on a leader to speak out. But Chiron is asking us to see the wounding and where we don't see the leader within each and every one of us. So Venus ingress into Cancer, again, another cardinal sign. Cancer is about our emotional body, it's home, it's family, it's the mother. And I think you're going to really like August's. There's one auspicious aspect in August, which is on August 12th. So I'm skipping a little bit ahead to next week, where Jupiter and Venus will meet in the sky conjunct Sirius, the very benefic star. But tune in for next week for that, more on that. But yeah, I think Venus coming close to Jupiter is going to give some kind of new beginning in your Cancer house. And two benefics here, I mean, something wants to grow, right? On July 31st, that was the Mercury Cazimi at 9 degrees of Leo. I think this is such a powerful moment to speak your truth, to speak from the heart, to ask yourself what is important to you. What do you put on a pedestal, right? Because Leo is the sign of royalty, kingship, and leadership. Donald J. Trump, Kamala Harris, the celebrities that you might put on a pedestal, none of them are better than you. Like, we have to stop putting these people higher than us just because they're famous, or just because they're a celebrity, or just because people have more money. If you're truly invested in collective liberation, we are all in the same, we're all the same, right? Like, if you are invested in collective liberation, you wouldn't pedestal somebody. You wouldn't wait for a savior. My friend Leah, who I co-host Cha with, she thinks I'm so like unhinged sometimes, because when we're out and we see a celebrity or we see a famous person, I'll literally just go up to them and say hello and be like, hey, I love your movie. And she gets like so embarrassed because she's like, oh my God, don't say anything. But I'm like, Leah, if we are truly committed to collective liberation and we're truly committed in decentralized power, then that person is not better than me. And I truly see them as just a human being that has flaws just like me, insecurities just like me. They just might have more social capital. They might just have more money in the bank than me, but that doesn't make them better than me. You know what I mean? So, I went off in this Mercury Cazimi tangent all to say that your words have power, your words have vibrations. And so I would encourage you, it's not too late to do something for the Mercury Cazimi, to say out loud what it is that you're co-creating, what are your dreams, what are your visions for the future, and speak from the truth, speak your truth from the heart, speak from authenticity. On August 1st, so technically that was this past weekend, Venus in Cancer was squared to Saturn retrograde in Aries at 1 degree. And then it squared Neptune retrograde in Aries at 1 degree. Stephanie and I just released our August, I was going to say September, oh my God, our August astrology forecast for the month. And I got to working on that earlier. So y'all got a preview back in late July. And what I said about this transit in that episode was there is some conflict, right, in your Cancer and Aries house. And you've been experiencing these squares between Jupiter and Saturn and Jupiter and Neptune. Squares are the nature of Mars. There's a conflict. Two areas of your life are kind of battling for attention. Um, Now, the Aries house, is it an overcoming square? This is just like based on aspects in astrology. So technically, Saturn and Neptune have the overcoming position to that Cancer. So anytime a planet goes into the Cancer house, it's going to be kind of pounded down by Saturn and Neptune. But I said that any square with a benefic is not all bad. Like maybe initially you get into a conflict, but at the end of the day, it's something that ends up being beneficial to you. Venus is about our bonds, our relationships, our values, and our worth. And so look at your Cancer house. Now you have two benefics there. What are you trying to bring to form? What feels safe and secure for you to bring out? And Saturn and Neptune are trying to co-create something new of your imagination, take a risk, perhaps challenge authority in your Aries house. So those two areas of your life are kind of coming to a conflict, but ultimately, I think it's going to be beneficial with the nature of Venus. When Venus squares Neptune, this is kind of like a Delulu energy, like um you might have like rose-colored glasses on a situation, but ultimately, I think Saturn and Neptune is a helpful when they're together, they're helpful because Saturn can bring form to your imagination, to your dreams. Saturn to me is like commitment and discipline in something. So fast forward to February 26th of 2026, Saturn and Neptune are going to come together at 0 degrees. This is an inception point. This is a seeding moment. So right now you're kind of like reflecting, like, is this the thing that I really want to do? Is it the thing that I want to commit to for the next, like, Neptune's transit is 14 years, Saturn's transit is 3 years. This isn't like a short amount of time. And so, yeah, that was last week. A lot has been going on in the news. Free Palestine, as always. Palestine is going, specifically Gaza, is going through a forced starvation. And I just want to say that I hate a neutral ass bitch. Like, I just cannot stand people who don't name the perpetrator. Maybe it's because of my own childhood trauma and my own experiences with family violence and domestic violence, that one of the first things that you learn is to name the perpetrator and hold them accountable. And I just like cannot stand people who won't name the perpetrator. So if you're going to talk about Palestine and what's happening in Gaza and say that they're starving without naming why they're starving, who the perpetrator is, because they wouldn't be starving if there wasn't an occupation. So I just want to say that and name that because, again, Mercury Kazemi in Leo is to say the actual thing without fear, being courageous in your words. And I think on August 6th, when Mars enters Libra, this is an energy of neutrality, of trying to people please and trying to take action where you don't want to ruffle feathers. And I say that as somebody with a natal Mars in Libra. It's like my Mars in Libra is peregrine. It has no dignity whatsoever. It's so funny. Because like I have an Aries sun and then I have a bunch of other stuff in Libra. And it's like the one planet that I'm like, okay, let's look at the bright side of what a Mars in Libra can do, right? So that's my segue into saying August 6th, Mars ingresses into Libra, another cardinal sign. So we have a lot of cardinal action. We have Libra, Mars in Libra. We have Saturn and Neptune in Aries. We have Venus and Jupiter in Cancer. This is a lot of initiatory action energy. Like I mentioned, did I mention this? Mars is detriment in the sign of Libra. Now, I don't think that, okay, let me pause for a second. In a natal chart, when you have detriment or fallen planets, meaning that detriment means when the planet is in the sign that is furthest away from its home sign. So Mars is at home, it's in its domicile in two signs, Scorpio and Aries. And I'm a Hellenistic astrologer. I don't use modern planets for what's it called? For essential dignities, essentially. So Scorpio is not the ruler of Pluto. That doesn't make sense to me. There is a reason why, based on the seasons, the speed of the planet, they are assigned to these signs. It's called essential dignities. Anyway, when Mars is in a Venus ruled sign, so Venus rules two signs, Libra and Taurus, Mars is in its detriment. Now, then we have exaltation and fall. Exaltation is when the planet is on its throne, when it's like in its favorite place. So Mars is exalted in Capricorn. And so the opposite sign, Mars is in its fall in Cancer. And we talked a lot about Mars in Cancer earlier this year and late last year during the Mars retrograde. And in a mundane sense, I feel like that makes sense. But in someone's natal chart, I think anybody can work with these planets, right? I think they express themselves in different ways. And so, like peregrine actually means like alien. So my Mars is in alien territory in Libra. And I think knowing about immigrants and like watching my parents, right? They are immigrants to this country. I feel like that is a planet in its fall. It's like they came to this country, they didn't know the language, they didn't know the customs, they didn't know the inside jokes. They really had to be scrappy and learn as they went along. That's like a Mars in Cancer, I would say. I would say a Mars in Libra or a Mars in Venus is like a refugee. You literally are alien. Like you don't know, you have no home country. You are not given papers to work there. So does that mean that the planet is like, are you just going to be weak and messed up forever? No, it just means that you might have to learn in alien territory, or like you have to learn the language that it's not your native tongue. In a mundane sense, in like world events, Mars in Libra can be, diplomacy. It could be countries like finally having some sort of like ceasefire maybe, or hopefully, or I'm thinking about Israel is a Libra rising, and so maybe since Mars is in its detriment in Libra, this is like stopping them bombing Gaza every day. And so hopefully in that sense, the qualities of Mars and Libra in its detriment will work in the favor of the people's will, right? Which is to have a ceasefire and end the occupation. Mars and Libra people now, like trying to take your personal feelings out of this, AOC and Bill Clinton, they're very good at getting buying power. They're very good at convincing people to come on board to their cause, right? They're very charismatic people. They are very diplomatic in some ways. I mean, AOC is kind of Mars and Libra right now. I mean, she is a Libra. She's very like both sides neutral. She's playing this game of like, I'm against Israel, but I'm going to block the bill that sends more Bernie Sanders bill to block aid going to Israel, right? She's playing both sides. So again, Mars in Libra has that quality, which is like, I'm going to be neutral and I'm going to take actions that are very balanced. And like I said, I hate a neutral ass bitch. And I hate that sometimes my Mars in Libra does like take other people's feelings into consideration. But ultimately, you can use Mars and Libra to take action for justice. This is such a beautiful transit when Mars enters Libra, and it's going to make a grand air trine between Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini. This grand trine is such a powerful moment to organize, to take direct actions, to help educate people, to meet your people. And so if there are any people out there listening to this who have like you know, access to community organizers or something like that, I would suggest them to tell these people that August with this grand air trine is a great time to do some kind of action, to do some organizing. With one caveat, on August 8th, Mars and Libra will trine Uranus and Gemini. That's the grand air trine that I was mentioning. However, Mars and Libra will oppose Saturn retrograde in Aries at 1 degree. Now, this is probably the most challenging aspect of August because there are two malefics that are opposing each other. And so oppositions are like essentially full moons, right? And they are two opposing forces looking at each other from the opposite ends of the sky. And they're two malefics. They're two malefics that are not in their favorite places. So again, Mars in Libra is in detriment, opposing Saturn in Aries, which is in its fall. Now that Saturn is speaking to that Mars, and that Mars is speaking to Cancer. So this is a lot of cardinal energy, a lot of initiative, and a lot of action. So that Venus in Cancer, I might have mentioned this on a previous forecast or whatever, but Venus in Cancer in its shadow phase or shadow expression is just like hurt feelings, right? And nationalism and trauma bonding with people that you feel are like you, like very tribal, right? It's very white supremacist, nationalist energy when kind of turned in its shadow aspect. The USA has its natal Venus in the sign of Cancer. So if that is a threat, right? You're threatening the bonds, you're threatening the state of a group of people. That Venus is being answered by that Mars in Libra. We're going to take action for justice. Justice can go both ways, right? Like justice for who? Justice for the people or justice to uphold racism and white supremacy in this country? And then that Mars is being answered by that Saturn in Aries. And Saturn in its fall is also like a fallen leader or like a dictator, essentially, somebody who doesn't take other people into consideration, but only their own will and their own interests. So, in the mundane sense, this could mean like just conflict amongst leaders, conflict amongst people. Um, in your own individual life, look at where you have Libra and Aries. And so this could be just a battle of will, like you going up against somebody at work, a friend, a family member. And I would say, see, I never say things like during Mercury retrograde, like, be careful what you say, or like, yeah, obviously be careful who you email and text. Like, you don't want to accidentally text your war plans in a signal chat like Pete Hegseth did in the last Mercury retrograde. But I would say, like, try to be open to conflict and healthy conflict. Like, try to come at it with asking yourself first, what's your intention? Is there conflict repair here? Is there a chance where, yes, we have differing opinions, but can I if this person can't hold themselves accountable, if they're not able to have repair, then can I walk away? Can I form a boundary with this person? Or if this person is willing to have this conversation with me and meet me halfway, then could there be a compromise? Mars and Libra. So yeah, August 8th is very interesting because you have this beautiful Mars and Libra trine Uranus and Gemini, which is very much this like active, um, you know, go out on the streets and protest kind of energy. But I would be careful on August 8th also because of that opposition to Saturn. On August 9th, Mars in Libra will then oppose Neptune in Aries at 1 degree. And again, like something might happen on the day before where you're, having a conflict with somebody, and then all of a sudden you're like confused or they gaslit you and you're like, wait a minute, now I'm not sure about what action steps to take next. Libra has this notorious way of being indecisive because it's the scales, right? You want to like weigh two options. And so Mars and Libra opposite Neptune and Aries could have that effect of like, I'm not really sure what action steps to take next. And on the same day, this is the day of the full moon in the sign of Aquarius at 16 degrees. And this happens at 3:55 a.m. Eastern time. So adjust for your time zone. This is in the second decan of Aquarius, which is the Six of Swords in the tarot. And it is a Mercury ruled decan. Now, decans in astrology come from ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, and the Egyptian kind of roots of Western astrology, the astrology I learned, which is Hellenistic astrology. So each sign is divided into 3 decans. And so the first decan is 0 to 9 degrees. The second decan is 10 to, I believe, 19 degrees. And the third decan is 20 to 29 degrees. So this is 16 Aries. So this is the second decan. This is the Six of Swords. Because this is a Mercury ruled decan, right? Your thoughts, your ideas, your communication in the sign of Aquarius, which is a more future forward, innovative, scientific kind of archetype. This is maybe you imagining, where do I want to be in the future? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? This could also be, all of us have been experiencing a pretty rough time. Collectively, things are changing. Society is kind of collapsing in some ways. We're witnessing a live stream genocide and what that does to your brain chemistry. People can't afford housing and people just can't afford anything in late stage capitalism, and people are burnt out. And so this figure here is rowing these two people to safer and calmer shores. Now, the sixes in the tarot are about like harmony and balance, and also they're relational. It's about asking for help, or you helping other people. So with all of this like grand air trine energy and like everything that I've mentioned so far, you could be compelled to be the person rowing the boat. Somebody who's like, all right, I have all of this energy and time now. I want to be of service to other people. And that's how I'm going to kind of transmute some of this like feeling of stuckness, this feeling of hopelessness. Or I am the person in the boat that I need to ask for help. I'm drowning here. I need help. I need guidance. I need help. But no one's going to know that unless you vocalize that. So again, like I think this is a fruition moment. Full moons are about like culmination energy. This is an end of a cycle. So remember back to January 29th when there was a new moon here at 9 degrees of Aquarius. Saturn was still in the sign of Pisces. And now the ruler of this full moon is Saturn in Aries, and it's retrograde. So something that happened in January, there was a lot going on in January. This was like right after the inauguration. This was a lot of stuff was going on, I remember. And Saturn was still in Pisces. So there was some kind of disillusion of structure or like reimagining your dreams, what you thought was possible for your life. And now in Aries, it's like, okay, let's make it happen. Let's take action steps. So now at this full moon, it's like something's coming to fruition. And so after this full moon perfects, there will be a 22-hour, 55-minute void of course moon. And I always try to mention that because you don't want to force something on a void of course moon. Void of course moons is when the moon makes its last Ptolemaic aspect and kind of just like free flowing through the sky. And you need to have an aspect to the moon in order for something to manifest essentially or something to take hold, right? So when the moon is void of course for like almost a full day, this is a time to just rest and relax. It's not a time to launch anything new. I would not advise that at all if you don't want anything to come of it. I think I mentioned a couple of weekly astrology forecasts ago when Trump and the Republicans passed the big beautiful bill, quotes, right? They did that on a void of course moon in Libra, and they were able to do that because there was no uproar backlash from the House or the Senate. So that is a case when people who understand astrology will use the void of course moon, and it was famously used by Ronald Reagan and his astrologer. But so what I'm saying is, if you want to say something or if you want to pass something and you don't want to get pushback, that is a time you can use a void of course moon. But if you're launching something and you want like people to, like or buy or, participate in what you're doing, you don't want to launch that on a void of course moon. Okay, that is my void of course moon PSA. On August 10th, Mars in Libra will trine Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 2 degrees. Again, just like Mars trine Uranus in Gemini, this is another great day to reclaim your power, to meet up with heart-minded, value-oriented people, to do some kind of community action. I'm not saying to burn everything down, but what I am saying is that peacefully protesting in these like essential parades, yes, I think they are valuable because people can see the numbers of like how many people dissent to what is going on against this administration, to what's going on in the world. But at some point, we're going to have to take action that is actually going to hurt them in their bag at the money, right? So we need a working class solidarity. We need a strike, a general strike where, what is it, 3.5% of the US population goes on a strike that's meaningful, where people don't go to work. My astrology teacher, Sam Reynolds, said that the revolution is not going to happen on the weekends. Like, when people start to realize that what is going to move the needle is for you to stop going to your job and for these companies and corporations to really suffer, nothing is really going to happen. And until we get to that point, we're all just kind of, working with the master's tools, so to say. And yes, that is easier for me to say because I divested from corporate culture in 2017. I have Aquarius placements. So I think I just saw in the future what was going to happen and decided that I trust myself more than my boss and working for the man. I knew that I would never be valued at my job, and I was just some warm body to do the bidding of an evil corporate lord. I worked in private equity, which is probably the most demonic industry to work in. And I made a sacrifice. I decided that working for some company like that and losing my soul was more important to me than a 401k and health insurance. I mean, mind you, I was 35, so I feel like I just was like, it's time. But, revolution, collective liberation is going to take sacrifice. It's going to take real teeth in this game. It's going to take real 10 toes down kind of energy. And so you have to discern for yourself, like what that is. Like, what are you willing to, what is that Macklemore song? What are you willing to give? What are you willing to sacrifice? I know not everybody agrees with me because a lot of people will say, well, I have a family, I have a mortgage. And I'm kind of like, yeah. And again, those are the choices we all make, right? At some point, I chose not to have a mortgage. I chose not to have kids. I chose not to be tied down to something because I didn't want to be tied down to something. Um, and yet here we are in 2025, and our tax dollars are literally funding a genocide, and people are afraid to speak up. And I think the fact that you are afraid to speak up against a genocide funded by your tax dollars and you could lose your job, I think that is a red flag in and of itself. So, anyway, I keep digressing because I think these are important things to say and like what's at stake here. And people ask me all the time, like, what can I do? Like, what can I do amongst this changing time? And it's really to ask yourself these questions. Like everything that I just said, like you have to be really honest with yourself, like what is in your capacity, and kind of look to the future of what's happening because empire is dying and nothing is for certain anymore. Like all the structures that we thought would give us safety and security are crumbling. And so how can you build those safety nets within yourself and your community? So, anyway, thank you all again from the bottom of my heart for all of your support. I feel so blessed that I get to do this, and I will see you next week. Bye.